Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Tuesday. It's Election Day. Polls are just opening.
Yes, so 7 to 7 today. Make sure you go to your polling location if you are in District 2. If you are unsure, give the Board of Elections a call and they can help you out. Definitely a very, very important vote today. Go vote for David Tootle, and we'll be talking to him in a little bit later.
In just a moment, yeah. That's coming up. So tell all your friends, send them an email, send them a Facebook invitation.
Even better,
Instagram.
go pick them up. Go pick them up and take them to the polls, and then maybe you guys can go grab lunch.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah, there you go.
Make a day of it.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. But we have some other fish to fry, especially, and we have shrimp to fry too.
Yeah,
we'll be talking
lots
about
of shrimp.
that as well. Yeah, as a matter of fact. Have you gone in? There was an ad in the billboards up a few years ago talking about local Georgia shrimp, local shrimp. Support your local shrimpers. You realize right now that all of our Georgia shrimpers are starving to death.
How is that possible, Bill?
Beats me because it sure seems to be a lot of shrimp around. You go to any restaurant and they have it. You go to any grocery store and they have it. Just at Kroger the other day, I was looking at turned over the back of the shrimp. Where did this come from? Ecuador.
That's a long travel time.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the shrimp salad to a degree that I've been getting from Costco. I have to jazz it up a little more than they do, but it usually is pretty good. But the last batch I got had a peculiar taste. I mean, it didn't seem to affect me one way or the other. Just it tasted a little different, and I went to find out where they got their shrimp. For the most part, Vietnam. And so all of this shrimp is coming in, and our shrimpers are in trouble, and nobody knows about it except the shrimpers, it seems like, and the people who are affected by this. Maybe in Thunderbolt and places like that, where they have these shrimp communities. Darien, just down the road here near Brunswick. But our state representative, Jesse Petrie, is looking into it, and he's doing what he can to try to help. We talked to him about it last week. Well, something that most of us are totally unaware of, you've been working on. I didn't know our shrimpers were in such dire straits here. What in God's name is going on here?
So most of our folks do not realize that 94% historically in recent years, basically all began under Bill Clinton with the free trade agreement. NAFTA destroyed our shrimping fleet. We have about 10% of the fleet we had back in the 80s, okay, 10%.
Wow.
But domestic shrimpers all across the country, historically in recent years, have supplied 4 to 5% of the totality of the shrimping crop. So that, believe it or not. So 94% of the time, you go to order a shrimp anywhere and in our community, 94% of the time, you're eating foreign shrimp. Where's it coming from? Number 1, India. Number 2, Ecuador. Number 3, China. Number 4, Thailand. And number 5, Vietnam. So these are the countries where our shrimp's coming from. So here's what's happened recently. But we've still had that small remnant of our shrimping fleet making a living, right? Well, now they can't do that. So Ecuador has begun dumping shrimp into the United States. There are over 600 million pounds of shrimp in warehouses today. And so our shrimpers, we have an abundant crop out in the river right now. And there's not a shrimp boat in the country that is in the water right now. They're all docked up because there's no market. So there's no market for domestic shrimp because all of it has been taken by dumped foreign shrimp that are going for as little as 70. Actually, some people have told me as low as 30 cents a pound. So these are pond raised in foreign countries. They're subsidized by government. They're shipped here and they're dumped in our market, and what they're doing is killing our local shrimpers. So I'm on a mission to try to do something about it. It's largely a federal fix needed. I'm going to be advocating. I'm putting it on paper now. Going to be advocating to the federal government. We got to go to our senators, our U.S. senators here, Biden, Congressman Carter, and we've got to ask them to address the illegal dumping practices of these foreign countries. That's the first thing we got to do. But it's terrible, and I would tell people, one of the things you can do to help our local shrimpers is when you go to the grocery store, ask them, I want local shrimp. When you go to a restaurant, There's 9 restaurants in Chatham County, period. That's it. There are only 9 restaurants in this county that are selling local shrimp. The rest are all selling foreign shrimp. So when you go to a restaurant, seafood place, and you think you're eating local shrimp, you are not. So ask them, ask for them, encourage them to start selling Georgia wild shrimp. It costs them more, and that's the reluctance. And we have to understand that. I'm not beating up on them. You're going to spend more if you buy local shrimp. You're also going to get shrimp that's quality, that's real, Georgia wild, and they're not going to be raised in ponds overseas without all the health standards that we have. Many of them, by the way, of these ponds are they raise shrimp over chicken facilities where the litter feeds the shrimp. It is
Yuck.
It is an industry that would not exist in the U.S. And unfortunately, consumers, maybe they don't realize all that, but I will say there's no way to get around. You got to blame consumers. If we demand cheaper and cheaper and cheaper shrimp, this is what you get. And we have the Cool Act, so there's a labeling act required on raw meats to include shrimp in grocery stores, but it's not required when they're cooked. So one of the things that I'm working on is I'm feeling out a bill in Georgia that would require menus to have country of origin as it relates to meats and proteins. So it would say shrimp, U.S. or Ecuador, or most of the time it would say India or China or Ecuador. But see, nobody knows that. And so you take this huge tourism industry we have, they're coming in downtown to go into seafood restaurants to think they're eating local shrimp. Trust me, my friend, 94% of the time they're eating foreign shrimp.
Jesse, you would think that somehow we'd be able to put an embargo on that or be able to enforce.
We need tariffs.
Well,
and so
yeah.
one of the things we're asking the feds for, we need tariffs and we need to halt it's just an illegal practice to dump. And they're literally dumping. They've got this huge industry of raising them, particularly in Ecuador. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really harming us. Yeah. But yes, you're right. There's a multitude of things the feds can do. It's going to take the feds to do it because these are international commerce that is beyond what we can do as a state. I may be able to do something with menus, but again, I think the restaurant industry probably would not be real happy with that. So I've got to work on that.
Well, let me know what we can do to help.
Yeah, well, thank you, my friend. We all know those Georgia shrimp are the best in the country. I mean, they're sweet. Yeah. They're unique. We all know it. They're better, but as with most things we buy, consumers want to spend less, and I understand that.
Sure.
And restaurants don't want to have to sell a plate of shrimp for $40, but there's a way to do it if we get that industry back and we get those shrimpers back, and they're thriving and pulling in more, more supply.
Appreciate it, sir. Once again, it's up to you that you need to go in, and in fact, I'm going to start doing this today. The next time I'm at Costco, I'm going to ask them. The next time I'm go to Kroger, which usually is a daily experience, among others in Publix and Food Lion, why aren't you getting local shrimp? It's abundant. It's here. It would help our local shrimpers. That would bring the price down as much as anything else. And then we need to get these embargoes. This is something that Congressman Carter, Congressman Mace, and others ought to be working on, because this is livelihood here. Once again, this is part of our economy. Ask at restaurants. If it's not local shrimp, say, okay, I'll go with the steak.
Yeah, I actually really I know that people were upset when they put calories on all of the meals and stuff, mm-hmm. but I actually think it's really like an eye-opener when you go to a menu and you think you're getting a salad and it's still like 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
You're, I'm always a little bit like, well, I could get a burger and it's about the same. So
yeah,
I prefer the burger.
A friend of mine said one time he thought that salad bars made you fat, because everybody's ever saw it, salad bars were always fat to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because it's sometimes it's the amount of food that you're eating, but I think
sometimes it's the salad itself is okay, but then you put 500 calories, a spoonful dressing on top of it, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden there it goes.
Yes. So I do think this is a good thing that Jesse's working on. To hear him describe how their farm in other countries is rather disgusting. So hopefully everyone's stomach is turning this morning since we started with the shrimp story.
Yeah.
And you guys will look into making sure that you're asking about local shrimp, and we will get the name of the 9 restaurants for you guys because we do think that that's important.
And this explains a lot to me. It was one of the one of my favorite dishes is shrimp and grits. And I order it just about any place I go to, and every place is a little different. But I noticed recently in a place that usually had terrific shrimp and grits, there was just something different about it. And I don't know if they changed the recipe. I'm beginning to think now it was the shrimp itself and not the ingredients that they put in there, the little extra things that they do. Great shrimp and grits has things like bacon and dewy sausage, onions, and all of the grits, and it's all in a brine. It's really, really good. And then the shrimp goes along with it. But this last time I was at a place where I thought, don't fix it if it ain't broke. Did you change the recipe or something? Maybe it was the shrimp. I'm going to check.
Yes, we'll keep you posted on this story. I do think it's important that we also support the local restaurants that are trying to do the right thing and
we'll get a list of those for you.
Getting the local shrimp in there. So we did have some good news over the weekend.
Well, we did.
Ken Paxton, for those of you that don't know, he is probably the most conservative AG in the U.S., and he is also the one that brought the lawsuit saying that our voting was infringed on because of these other states changing their election laws without the proper process. So
exactly.
He's a firebrand, and he's been fighting for Texas. He's been fighting for all of us, actually, because he's one of the only AGs that's been pulling all these court cases forward and suing the Biden administration and suing whoever he can to get things taken care of.
So what happens when you do that? Why, you get accused of something, you get indicted yourself.
Yeah, an impeachment process, isn't it fun?
Yeah,
isn't it fun?
Yeah.
So he's been suspended and wasn't allowed to do anything as the AG. And what happened this weekend is that he was acquitted.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I wonder if it has to do with all the phone calls they were probably getting from not just Texans, but from people all around the U.S.
Exactly.
And this is the attorney that represented him, and this is what he had to say about Ken Paxton.
That they would bring this case in this chamber with no evidence. I am proud to represent Attorney General Ken Paxton. If this can happen to him, it can happen to anyone. Now, you heard when we started this case, you heard in the media that the evidence is 10 times worse than the public knows. But what a farce that was. What a farce that was. What we have seen instead is a bunch of supposition, mights, maybes, could have been. That's what we've seen in this trial. The very first witness they brought to you, he's not working. He's trying. Crumbled under oath. Do you remember? Do you remember Jeff Mateer? Crumbled under oath. So what is this case about? It's about nothing. It's about nothing. Think about it. They failed to gather all the evidence. They failed to review their own evidence. They failed to talk to all the witnesses. Think about this. Brent Webster, the first assistant, did they bring him here? Did they even bother to ask him a question? They didn't even ask him a question. He is the man who reviewed and documented every single thing that occurred They didn't even call him. You know why they didn't call him? Because he puts to bed all of their foolishness and silliness. They didn't take any sworn testimony. They let witnesses assume and speculate. They failed to even understand the law. And they couldn't even write the articles correctly. Look at the articles that the judge just read to you. They used words pro tem. Their own witnesses admit there was no attorney pro tem. They used words like the attorney general failed to protect charities. That is not the attorney general's job. And let me make sure we're clear about something here. When the House Board of Managers brought this case, they made an assumption. They assumed that this man would quit. They assumed that this man would run and hide. They assumed that Attorney General Ken Paxton would resign. Well, guess what? He did not resign. He is proud and is ready to go back to work. And after this is over, I expect he will go back to work. He has been a rock. He has been a rock, and that office, the Office of Attorney General, has accomplished more than any Attorney General's office in the country. You heard it from the witness stand. Biden's policies come to die in Texas because Attorney General Ken Paxton.
Way to go. Way to go for this jury. I was just as proud of them as I was the ones that acquitted Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, and I think that this was the establishment versus the grassroots in Texas, which has really heated up over the past couple of years. And just so you guys are aware, the AG was chosen with I believe he won by in the primary, 70% of the vote.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was no question that the Republicans wanted him as the AG, and he was elected overwhelmingly as well. So, you should not be able to do this to people unless it's like an egregious crime where there's high treason, misdemeanors, but they've made this political, and really surprising to see it out of Texas, but I'm glad that he was acquitted.
Amen to that.
He can get back to work.
All right. Election day. Don't forget to vote.
Yes.
Polls are open.
Yes, and we'll be talking to David Tootle when we get back.
Mm-hmm.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America. Here it is Election Day, and one of the guys who is running for a position on the county commission is David Tootle. David, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell me a little bit about this campaign here. What got you involved in politics in the first place? I know you came into national prominence because people were tearing Trump flags off your front porch. You kept putting them back up. Somehow that went viral, and Laura Ingraham had you on.
Yes, sir.
And it's gone from there. So I guess that's part of what you've been doing.
Yes, sir.
Or how you got initially your introduction to the wonderful world of Democrats.
Yeah, that's how I got started originally. Back in 2016, I donated the Trump campaign. I got sent a couple flags, and they were sitting in the wrapper for 4 years. Trump won his election. I think we all thought he was going for a second term.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I see all my neighbors with Biden flags and Biden street signs. So I decided to put my Trump flag up.
Yeah.
And it was within 24 hours, it was burnt. was charred. I put another one up, it was charred again. So I decided, you know what? I put cameras all around the house. I bought like 15 more flags and stuck them all around the house. And I was like, hey, you can take one or two, but you don't have to take them all. So Laura Ingraham came. I got on her show, and it just the Red Sea opened up. It parted for me, and I was able to start doing stuff. I got involved in the local GOP here. And the rest is kind of history. Here I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd run for office, but here I am.
Yeah. Well, the Democrats always keep saying, David, that the Republican Party doesn't look like America. It looks more like America to me than it does with them.
Oh God! I mean, Vivek's running now.
Yeah.
Even in 2020, you had so many different, diverse candidates.
Yeah.
Of course, I think their version of diversity is look. My version of diversity is thought.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think true diversity, it's always diversity of thought. But yeah, we do have a diverse group in terms of ethnicity for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for really since Obama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
for real.
in 08, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, David, and I think I thought we had we're pretty much getting our racial differences and everything else pretty much settled. We were the country was rolling along pretty good, and I think Obama actually opened up the wound again. Everything he did, it was always if the police arrested somebody, he was always on the side before he found out any of the facts. He always managed to side with the thugs.
Absolutely, yes. I remember that in 2008. I thought it was like we were post-racism.
Yeah.
I know a lot of folks who I think voted for Obama just because, not necessarily his policy, but he was very articulate. He seemed brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things he was saying was great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of knew at the time that it wouldn't work, but
Mm-hmm.
at the time in 08, I remember I was still in college. It was like, okay, we're post-racism. We're moving on. This wound is healed. And then when he got in there, I think he missed a golden opportunity to really surge past and continue to grow. And to your point,
Mm-hmm.
he started the whole, I remember it was a Harvard thing where the police came in and it was a professor at Harvard. I don't remember the details, but that was the first initial push I remember, where I was like, hey, you missed an opportunity here to really mend things. And,
yeah. I think, David, he was surprised at the blowback he got from that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the cop was doing his job. He sees a guy trying to get in a window. I mean, it was his house, but the cop doesn't know this.
That's right.
And he sees this guy trying to get in. Never mind the fact he was black. That didn't have anything to do with it. Some guy's crawling in a window of a house, and he arrests him.
Yes.
And the whole thing goes up. Oh, he arrested him because he was black. No, he arrested him because he was trying to break in the house.
If I were in that situation, I would actually appreciate the cop, being there. And,
Exactly.
I mean, but I've dealt with crime here, so
Uh-huh.
I don't know about Harvard or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think all around, Barack Obama missed an opportunity. I think a lot of people. Trump came in at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
He said the right things. Originally, I liked Ted Cruz. I thought Ted was the adult in the room.
Mm-hmm. One of those said, "I want America on cruise control."
I remember that. Yeah. But Ted came in. He said the right things, and at the time, Trump was saying some outlandish stuff. But come to find out, I was wrong. Trump was right.
Mm-hmm.
and I became behind Trump in the 2016. When he finally won the nomination, and then I realized we need a fighter like that. And that really inspired me to get out and fight. And at first, I think I was like everybody else. I was just kind of under my rock, and I'm like, I'm going to vote, and I'm going to continue to vote, and that's my civic duty. That's what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, especially after the flag burning incident, I've got to get more involved. It was God's way of saying, "Hey, wake up! We need good people to get involved now." Because we're going to lose this if we don't. This republic. So I'm excited to have my name in the hat here. Lord willing, we win this thing, and I swear this next year I've got roll my sleeves up. We got an uphill climb.
Boy, do we ever!
Yes, sir.
Well, they say all politics is local, and we try to encourage people. Said, look, the local election is more important actually than the national election. These people run your lives.
Absolutely.
They make laws. They make restrictions and everything else. So pay attention to who you're voting for. So what are you hearing on the campaign trail, and how do you feel at this point?
It's really interesting. I've door knocked for several candidates in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I was really instrumental in helping with the Herschel campaign, which unfortunately that didn't go our way. But by hook or by crook, it didn't. But on my campaign, I'm hearing a lot of wonderful things from a lot of wonderful folks. I've had the opportunity to talk to some single moms who, we talked about homelessness, and some of them have really opened my eyes to some things. We're living paycheck to paycheck. We have 3 children, and if we lose a paycheck, we could be homeless. So that's something I think was really interesting. And homelessness to me, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, it's not necessarily they're criminals. It's more of it could be a drug thing. Unfortunately, for some people, they get caught up in drugs. Sometimes it could be a mental health issue. Sometimes it might be affordable housing. I'm hearing a lot of different things about first responders. Those are the heroes, honestly, our first responders. But there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, look, I call." God forbid, I've had to call 911 because there was some activity going down the street. It took them 30 minutes to get here, and by the time they got here, it was gone. So those are things I think that we got to look into. Obviously, our taxes. I think we need adults in the room right now. Chatham County, the city of Savannah, for so long, I think we've had unqualified candidates, and I'm evangelizing that everywhere I go. We need to get qualified people in the room. And
that's the truth.
Yeah.
And you talk about public safety, these first responders, and we have a DA now who's not a Soros type, who is not prosecuting the people. Police are still filling out the paperwork before the guy they arrested is back on the street.
They're kicking it right back out. It's a revolving door.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's something that is really upsetting to me, and it's upsetting to a lot of folks. I've seen it time and time again over the last 10 years. We moved back here in the spring of 2014. And at that time, I got a job working for Jack Kingston. He was running for the Senate. I remember meeting you back then.
Yeah.
I think we were talking before. I met you at Oliver North book signing. But, at that time, I just remember seeing folks, bad people at that time on the streets. Sometimes, heck, I'd call the police. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, you see them right back out doing the same stuff. And it's gotten worse. And Savannah is growing at it is growing at a fast rate, and we're not keeping up, in my opinion, in terms of, what we're doing. We're putting up all these buildings. I think that there's just a lack. Going beyond the criminal aspect of it, there's just so much going on that we need to have dialogue and conversation, and it's just not happening. The county and city don't work together. In my district, it's District 2. It's actually inside the city of Savannah, the city limits.
Okay.
Which is unlike a lot of the other county districts. Some of them are outside of the city of Savannah. So it behooves us to have the county and city working together for sure.
Well, you have you talk about reducing taxes through budget discipline. And what we've seen from government is that they don't have a budget anymore. They just decide they're going to do something, and they're going to spend the money anyway.
Blank checks.
And raise the taxes or the millage rate or whatever it is. And suddenly we find ourselves, paying for something that we didn't want, or that they spent way too much in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, there is like I said, there's no adults in the room. They're just spending money. And that goes across that, that transcends just the city and the county. We're seeing that obviously in the United States in general, in the federal government. But, I don't like to point a finger at anybody. I like to just say, hey, look, here's some thoughts, here's some ideas. But I do feel like, and there are some good Democrats out there, I do believe. I was just reading an article about RFK. Yeah. He's one of the few, I think, like a Joe Manchin, who's sort of that old moderate Democrat who, if you remember 30 years ago, we had the same outcome. We wanted the same outcome. We had different ways of getting there. Right. The old Democrat would say, hey, we want safe roads. We want the roads, to look good. We want safe environments, safe neighborhoods. We want to be fiscally responsible. But unfortunately, in the last 10, 15, 20 years, the Democrat Party's gone more left. And that's why I think we need good people on our side to get involved, to say, hey, no, we're not going to go more left. Same thing I'm dealing with Calhoun Square. We're having more children trafficked on our shores of Chatham County, and they're worried about changing the name of Talmadge Bridge. It's like, no, I'm worried about what's going under that bridge. Yeah. Forget about the name on the bridge.
Exactly.
That doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother anybody. Let's worry about what's going on. But that's their thing. They want to stand by something so they can have something to say, oh, well, look what I ran on. Look what we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's talk about the real issues.
Exactly.
The drugs, the crime, the human trafficking. That's what I want to concern myself with.
David,
That's why I got in this race.
good for you. I think one of the things that bothers me most is that we don't maintain stuff here. I remember several years ago they said, "Well, our statues are falling down upon. They're over 100 years old." I said, "Well, haven't we done anything to maintain them?" At the Civic Center, they said, "Well, there's so much repairs that need to be done. Why didn't you do that along the way? And it wouldn't have deteriorated." We have this jewel in the Aquatic Center, and we could be bringing in all sorts of swim meets here that are enormous revenue generators for the county, and yet the air conditioner's out, air conditioning's out, all sorts of maintenance problems with it, but there's a sign right outside that said we're building a new playground here. We don't need another playground. We don't need a new playground. The ones we have are pretty good. Let's fix the aquatic center and make that one of the crown jewels here to get swim meets here. Those things are enormous.
Bill, you're exactly right. I mean, that's why we need adults in the room who understand business.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of these folks, and not all of them, and I'm not painting one brush, but most of them have served in government their whole life. They've never hired anyone. They've never built a company. They've never
Mm-hmm.
been a part of successful growth. They've never seen revenue. And that's why frankly, I decided to get in exactly what you're talking about. We need to create ideas and bring ideas up and change the way we're doing things. Like for example, the playground you're talking about. Yes, we need to. That's an opportunity to bring revenue in to the aquatic center, bringing people around. I think they used to have meets there several years ago.
Oh yeah, they still do it to a degree. We're talking about 800 people that come in here for about 3 days.
Yes,
they have to stay in motels. They have to
In
eat in
hotels
restaurants.
and
They
eat
have to do
restaurants.
shopping at the mall. I mean, whatever it is.
That's exactly
Tours,
right.
take tours.
That's exactly right. And that's the thing that I think these folks don't even understand is when you do things like that, like the Rock and Roll Marathon. I know this was a city issue.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a county thing. But, you know, we got rid of the Rock and Roll Marathon.
What?
Do you know how many millions of dollars that was bringing in to our economy? Like to your point with people who stay in hotels and eating out and enjoying the town, doing tours. I mean, I used to wait tables at the Chart House some years ago, and I remember the first year they came in. I think it was 2011.
Yeah.
And I remember the economic boom it had. I felt it that day, that weekend.
Yeah.
And we got rid of it. So to your point, we need ideas like that. But the aquatic centers are where we start. That's a huge one. You know, bringing in meets there. I know a family who owns a cheer center.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same thing. Getting with business folks like that and saying, hey, how could we as a county help with, you know, bringing stuff here? How can we work with you because they know their industry. So they could say, hey, yeah, you know, we've got a cheer center here. We got a cheer team. We know people around the city, around the state, around the country who can bring that type of industry in here, and we can have these type of meets that will impact our county and our city long term, even just for a weekend though. But that really brings that in. Now, granted, I think tourism has picked up, so I think that you know, unlike 10 years ago, I think we had kind of seasons.
Right.
But still, I mean, we need those ideas in, and that's what I'm trying to open this thing up for us.
Way to go visit Savannah. They've done a great job.
Yeah.
So, David, as we wrap it up here, it's election day. Tell people what you want. The polls have been open now for about an hour and a half. Tell people why they should vote for you.
Yeah. David Tootle, vote for me for District 2 County Commissioner. I'm telling everybody, you know, it's a year. This is a special election. It's today, so get out and vote. But give me this job. I'm asking you, the constituent, the voter, to give me an opportunity to serve. I have 1 year. This is a 1-year term. Give me that year, and you know we'll circle back next year. And if I do my job, I think you'll like it. And you'll rehire me. If you don't, this is the way America works. You can get somebody else in there. But I think we've got to start here. This is where we start, and we'll continue to go. We got to get the rest of the county and the city. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I would really appreciate your vote today.
God bless you, David. We'll be right back.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934. With personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannians with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Election day, don't forget to vote. I hope you were impressed with David Tootle as much as we are.
Yes, he's going to be really good for Chatham County, and I think he will make an impact with the relationship with the city as well, because we all know that has made the news as of
vote
last
early
year.
and often.
Yes, yes. So go out and vote for David Tootle. And, why do we need good elected officials, Bill? I mean, does it make a difference?
Yeah, it really does. The founding fathers said this republic will not work unless you have people of integrity and a religious base, God-fearing men at the time, but men and women, and trans for that matter. But they have to have people, but they have to be people of integrity. But to stand up for the Constitution, because right now we get this attitude of Constitution. We don't need no stinking Constitution.
Yes, and we have a physician that's actually talking about what they're planning to do and why they're so intent on making sure that the WHO is actually going to be the dictator of what we do in crises when it comes to health.
And we're not talking about the 60s rock group. Buckle your seatbelts. You're going to be stunned by this.
We're undergoing a soft coup, and the idea is to create a whole new set of laws and ignore the existing human rights laws and other laws under the pretext of pandemic preparedness and the biosecurity agenda. The WHO is developing through all its nations, but with the WHO Directorate in the United States in charge, a pandemic treaty and amendments to the existing international health regulations that will remove the human rights protections currently embedded in the IHRs, will enforce surveillance, censorship, get rid of freedom of speech, require governments to censor and only push a single narrative. Also, we will be subject, if they can make this work, to vaccines developed in 100 days, which the organization CEPI is planning to do. And one of the people who founded CEPI was Jeremy Farrar, who is now the chief scientist at the WHO, to bring this forward. Other things that amendments do is to bind the states so they're no longer recommendations but enforceable edicts, provide a liability shield, get rid of intellectual property rights, move supplies from one country to another, enforce digital passports, and the Director General of WHO can demand that a pandemic or a potential pandemic exists. He can just declare it with no standards, and then countries around the world will have to obey. Also, the WHO will tell you what drugs you can and can't use in your nation once a pandemic is declared. Obviously, the budget will increase. One Health is another part of this. One Health is a concept that was created to enable the WHO, with these documents, to take over jurisdiction of everything in the world by saying that climate change, animals, plants, water systems, ecosystems are all central to health. Also embedded in this concept is a peculiar notion that humans are no longer of greater value than animals.
I can't even believe if this were on Saturday Night Live, this would scare me.
Yeah, I don't think people realize what's going on behind the scenes, Bill. There's
Gee
so much
whiz.
going on that at that level, it's amazing that they're able to start
Who
scheming.
is going to
Yep.
take over the world, and the director can just say, "We're having a pandemic," and
Wear a mask, get locked down in your homes, and do as I say.
yeah,
Bill, pretty scary stuff going on.
this is terrifying on so many levels. I mean, it's just it's mind-boggling. I'm practically speechless.
Well, and I don't. Here's the thing. How have we gotten here? I think that
Well, being asleep at the switch is one way.
one way, and then who's paying for this, Bill? Who pays the who? We pay a lot of money to them. NATO. I mean, so many organizations that we pay money to, and guess what? They're being weaponized against everyone now. So
It's the reason
we
the
pay
real
for this.
president pulled out, and the faux president we have now got us back in
Yeah,
with apologies.
I think that there should have been more. I don't know. There must be more that we can do.
Who was this woman?
So she is a physician that was actually
physician?
yes. She actually lost her medical license in Maine. Yeah.
Well, what a surprise.
Yes. So they went after her. Her name is Meryl Nass, Dr. Meryl Nass. And, she sued them. And now she's speaking out. She's making sure that people understand what's going on because of what also happened to her as a physician. And these medical boards, they're corrupt as they come.
I'm just I'm just blown away.
Yeah. Well, speaking of blown away, I'm wondering if Kevin McCarthy is going to lose his speakership if he doesn't get in line.
I don't know, but let's see. There's the continuing. A lot of people think this is a circular firing squad for the Republicans, but let's just see.
So you've seen Matt Gaetz come out, not just Matt Gaetz, but him most loudly and prominently saying that he's going to push to oust McCarthy, motion to vacate. Could you see yourself under any circumstances supporting a motion to vacate?
It hasn't happened yet, and I'm not going to, comment on conjecture here. Either he's going to file it or he's not. If he's going to do it, put his money where his mouth is. I do hear that some votes might be up for grabs because people were made promises that have not been kept.
What about your vote? Is it up for grabs? Could you?
We'll see how it turns out, but I will tell you, I'm one of those members who were made certain promises. I've worked on women's issues. I've worked on issues, related to gun violence I feel are very important. And, it's fallen on deaf ears. And if I give a handshake to someone, I expect them to follow through with it.
Wow, so you don't rule out supporting that, do you think?
I might, you know what? Everything's on the table at this point for me because I want to do the right thing for the American people. I want to do the right thing for women. I'm trying to show here's a path forward for women post-Roe, for birth control, for women who are rape survivors, et cetera. My district is no stranger to gun violence, to mass shootings. There are things that we can do to keep our communities safe and follow the Constitution at the same time. We should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to work hard for the American people and show them that. And here we are facing a government shutdown. And really, what have we accomplished this year?
So do you think McCarthy's going to be Speaker of the House at the end of the year? Bottom line?
I think he did. I do think he will continue to be Speaker, but I do think it's going to be a long rest of the year.
And shutdown, are you expecting one?
I am expecting a shutdown. But again, what most America doesn't know, the majority of the government will be operating, will be working. And I've talked to some federal employees that don't really mind it because they're going to get a vacation, they're going to get time off, but then they're going to get back pay. And so they're not really grumbling about a government shutdown. It's more than meets the eye.
Of course, there's uncertainty, though. I think that's what troubles a lot of government employees.
I'm all for government shutdowns.
Yeah.
If they're shut down, they're doing less damage. So let's shut it down, Bill.
Amen. And unlike in the civilian world, where when you lose your job temporarily, you usually don't get your job back with back pay. You might get your job back, but there's no back pay. So, well, you didn't work, so no need to pay you. This is one of the things that I was always amused with policies that we had for vacations where I was working. You either took the vacation or you lost it. You didn't get paid any extra for it. If you only took 1 week of your 2-week vacation, you didn't get paid for an extra week because you got a paid vacation. You only got paid for the week that you were off and not an extra paycheck, even though you were working. And so you lost it. And it doesn't roll over to the next year. Whereas in the military, those days accumulate. I know military people who retired. Said, well, their retirement date was like 3 or 4 months ahead of time, but they left the service because they had all these vacation days, and they still got paid for it. They get paid for another 3 months after leaving.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Oh, I am too. But geez, I was like, golly, I'd like to have that deal.
So what's in the CR deal that the two fractions of the GOP have come up with? Mm-hmm. Cutting all discretionary spending by 8%. Of course, the defense budget and the Department of Veterans Affairs, their budget would stay the same. Mm-hmm. It would also include House GOP's H.R. 2 border crackdown bill. However, it did take out the provisions about requiring E-Verify, which, why? Because here's the thing. They want to give these people coming over the border work permits so they can start working at a very cheap cost. And guess what that does to the American people? It reduces our wages. So all of the people that have cried about $15 minimum wage, guess what? All out the window. It doesn't matter now. And guess who suffers? Americans. So I'm really hoping that, like I said, I hope the government shuts down. It'll be interesting to see what happens with McCarthy. He has made a lot of promises, hasn't done a lot on those promises to deliver. Matt Gaetz asking for a vote of term limits, and what was the other one? There's two of them, but
let's find out.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role. The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair. We have had no vote on term limits or on balanced budgets as the agreement demanded and required. There's been no full release of the January 6 tapes, as you promised. There has been insufficient accountability for the Biden crime family, and instead of cutting spending to raise the debt limit, you relied on budgetary gimmicks and rescissions so that you ultimately ended up serving as the valet to underwrite Biden's debt and advance his spending agenda. Mr. Speaker, you boasted in January that we would use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. But here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. That's how you know that the rushed and somewhat rattled performance you just saw from the Speaker isn't real. At this point, during Democrat control over the House of Representatives, they had already brought in Don Jr. 3 times. And we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden. Power of the subpoena and power of the purse. Only thing the 118th Congress is known for at this point is electing Kevin McCarthy Speaker and underwriting Biden's debt. And unfortunately, there's only one of those things we can remediate at this time. Power of the purse.
He's not angry at all.
No, I wish he'd get out the middle of the road, though, and speak his mind.
I know, right?
Yeah, sure.
Why haven't we voted on term limits? And Matt Gaetz admits, guess what? We're not going to get the votes for it. However, we will all know where our representatives stand. And I think that is the most important thing, because when they're on the record for voting, you can hold them accountable to that.
Hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
And balanced budgets, I've heard some people in Congress say we're never going to get there. Well, I have to have a balanced budget, so you guys better get there.
Have to have one here in Georgia, have one in South Carolina.
Well, you guys are taking our money and acting like we should be required to give you more. No, we need to start reducing the spending so that we can reduce taxes. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous, Bill.
It is pathetic, and what they're spending the money on is just ridiculous.
Absolutely, and so yeah, shut it down. I'm all for it. I'm here. I'm here to watch what happens to Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, no money for West Palestine. No money for, and I wish the president would learn how to pronounce it. And no money for Maui, but we can get another $24 billion to Ukraine, for God's sake.
I think Zelensky actually is here this week. Isn't that exciting? Asking for more money.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and also this ingrate is making threats if we don't give him the money.
Wow, it must be nice. It must be nice.
Yeah, it's like the illegal aliens here, and they're complaining about the free food they're getting.
I know we're getting shakedown, Bill. The shakedown as the taxpayer.
No kidding.
Well, when we get back, we're going to be talking about someone saying that, Americans are basically slaves to the system at this point. I don't know that I disagree.
Hard to believe. That's good.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
It's election day. Get to the polls.
Yes.
They've been open for almost an hour now.
Vote for David Tootle. You saw him earlier on the show. If you weren't impressed, you should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you weren't, get psychiatric help.
Yes. Well,
I sure hope he gets elected.
Me too.
Come on, folks, get to the polls. Vote for this guy.
Yes, District 2, get out in droves. Vote for David Tootle. And, we're having a little election thing tonight, and hopefully we'll have good news and have a lot of things to celebrate Wednesday morning, Bill.
A little celebration. Yeah, we'll certainly keep you posted on that.
Yes, and for those of you that don't know Andy Frisella, he is out of Missouri, and he is fed up with how people are treated. And here's the thing. He's a millionaire. He doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need to speak out. There's no reason for him to do this.
Trump. Yep. He didn't need to be president of the United States. He didn't even take a salary.
Yeah, so him speaking out, he has his own podcast. It's called Real AF, but he's talking about how we're basically slaves to the system because how much taxes we pay. And here he is.
American people are the biggest slaves of any citizenship in the entire world. Because the American people are the only people that are told, go work super hard, go take a massive amount of your life, and we're going to take at least half your money. When we take half your money, we're going to send it overseas, or we're going to mismanage it, or we're going to send it over here for quote-unquote aid. Where's our motherfucking aid? Where's our aid from Kuwait or any of these other rich countries to fix our homeless problem? You ever notice that none of the other citizens on the planet work so that we can have a better here in America? It's always the other way around. Why the f are we, the citizens of the United States of America, financing the well-being of every other fucking country in this planet? Until people wake up to that and say no more, shit's gonna continue. This land of the free, that's a fucking joke. Land of the motherfucking worker bees is what we are.
I don't disagree with him. He's a little aggressive for most people, but
that's right. Thinks mothers have a word.
Yes, and he's it really speaks to the fact that we really are slaves. I mean, we don't have a choice where our money goes. Our elected officials, they don't really listen to the people. They are sending our money to all these other countries, but no one's giving us a better life, Bill. I mean, we're told that we have to work hard and give them our tax money. And where does it go? It goes to Ukraine. It goes to Pakistan. It goes to all of these other places that really isn't solving the problems we have here at home. And I don't know if you've seen Philly or LA or San Francisco or name a major city. The homeless population is out of control. Why are we not trying to solve that? And it's not going to be pretty to solve this problem, but we all need to roll up our sleeves and we need to do it. However, the federal government needs to stop sending our money and taking our money and sending it overseas so that we can solve our own problems. But they're making it very, very hard right now.
Well, they sure are. And the where they're sending it, once again, we mentioned it just a while ago, Maui, the folks in Maui got $700 once. Boy, you haven't seen money like that in a while, have you? And then we haven't seen anything about East Palestine in Ohio. What are they doing there? They sent Pete Bootylicious in there to take a look around in his hard hat.
That was a photo op, Bill.
But so far the president hasn't been there, although he said he had, but he just can't find the time. He can find the time to spend 40% of his time on the beach in Delaware.
I was going to say, didn't he go back on vacation this weekend?
I believe he might have.
I think he did.
Yeah.
He went back to Delaware, back home.
Yeah. And when people ask about it, well, he's still working from home. He's still doing this great job. I don't know where they expect people to actually believe this. And when they show these polls and said he's still got a 38% approval rating. Who are the stupid 38% that still think this guy is actually doing a good job? They're
the people that don't watch anything but CNN, MSNBC, and the mainstream media.
Barbie movies.
Yeah, if you don't watch any alternative media, like, you're not informed.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of resources out there for people to get news that's more factual and that tells you the truth. Because here's the other thing. It's like, don't believe that your life is a lot harder right now. It's not because of Biden.
No.
It couldn't be. I mean, he's wonderful. The economy, haven't you heard him say how wonderful it is?
Yeah, inflation is coming down.
I don't feel it.
This president has saved us $17 trillion or something in the last 6 weeks or so.
From where?
Well, no, nowhere. They just made this stuff up.
Guess what? Maybe him and Hunter have stopped selling out our country. Maybe that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's where they're getting that total amount.
Yeah, maybe all of Hunter's artwork is bringing in revenue for us.
You know what? They should have to pay that back.
I agree.
Anything sold of Hunter Biden's goes back to the U.S. We could pay off our debt pretty quick, right?
Yeah, so we could close that deficit gap in a hurry.
Yeah, I really like it, Bill. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea.
I think one of the greatest ideas was one of the person in the Treasury or something that decided, or maybe it was at the Fed, said we're going to issue a $1 trillion coin.
Oh.
So we get you get 37 of those and
it's gone.
We don't have a deficit anymore.
I like it.
The budget is balanced. What do you know?
Sounds great, Bill.
I love that.
Yeah. If we all lived in the utopia that the left lives on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing. We're seeing more and more celebrities come out and saying, I'm a Republican or I used to be a Democrat or and Chuck Norris is no exception.
Yeah. Way to go, Chuck.
Question for you, good sir. Why are you a conservative, sir?
Well, I used to be a Democrat, but unfortunately, the Democrats went too far to the left, and the Republicans moved into their position that the Democrats were 40 years ago. See, and so what the Democrats believed 40 years ago, the Republicans believe today. Mm-hmm. Wow. And so I realized that I had to go to a Republican because the Democrats just got too far off the trail. It just got completely off the trail and lost all reality of what America stood for. And so I realized that Republicans at this point in time are more focused on what is best for America than what the Democrats are.
Way to go, Chuck. He looks pretty good for 84 or whatever he is, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And I love seeing this. I hope more and more comes out because there's a lot of celebrities that are scared to say that they're Republicans, but I do think that the tide is shifting because it's really hard to support some of the initiatives on the left.
It may have been Sam Donaldson, but I believe it was during one of the debates that Ronald Reagan was having. They thought they were going to throw him a curve by saying, "Well, you talk about this deficit and all this deficit spending and everything, and how don't you feel personally responsible for some of it?" And he said, "Yes, I was once a Democrat." Way to go!
Yeah.
Don't try to back this guy. Don't try to back that guy into a corner.
The thing is, so. He actually had some wonderful one-liners and just
he did.
He made things fun. He made politics fun. And I think
Exactly.
that that's kind of what resonates with people with Trump too, I think is he's made it a little bit fun, especially because he doesn't really let things get to him. He just comes out fighting.
And once again, the media couldn't understand the popularity of Ronald Reagan when he died, that the funeral procession of him when they were taking him to his final resting place. The sides of the road were packed. It looked like the St. Patrick's Day parade crowds here in Savannah on March the 17th. And just people were showing their appreciation for this guy who pulled us out of the hole after the disastrous years of Jimmy Carter.
Well, I also think people are looking for someone to give them hope.
Yeah.
And I do think that is a big part of it as well. Unfortunately, I do think that the Republicans have made this race very difficult because they're fighting with each other. And the only people that I feel like are really talking about things that people care about are Trump and Vivek. They are not talking about how much money they're going to give to Ukraine or things like that because they understand that really we need to solve things here at home. We're not in a good place as a country, and that needs to be priority number one. And there are a lot of issues, Bill. I don't think we're lacking in that area.
No, and believe me, we should be voting for people who the Democrats say are a threat to our precious democracy.
True, because we are a constitutional republic, and they don't understand that. So,
yeah. So make sure you get to the polls and vote. You have until 7 o'clock tonight. Be sure to vote and take some friends with you, okay?
Yep. And David Tootle.
Yeah. We'll have it for you tomorrow and a complete report. But meanwhile, support us because we're living on a shoestring here, And so anybody that can help us out, if you know somebody that has a business, if you have a business, please support us if you want to continue this broadcast and a conservative, local owned news media that's not corporate controlled, that told what they can cover and what they can't.
Yes, you can donate, you can advertise, you can also become a member and become an investor. So
please.
We hope you guys will do that. And
help us out.
Yes.
If we're not here, if you're not there and help us out here, we ain't going to be here.
Very true, Bill.
Yeah.
Very, very true. So make sure you go to the localspin/gra.com. Actually, that's the localspin.com/GRA. That's where you can become a member and find out more information about us.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks so much.
Stay real.